Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
Doug just played one of those weird games that I hear a lot about,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it was one of those things that I never really saw anything for, which is Unpacking. Now, this is
Yes.
on Gamepass. Is that where you played it, or did you actually buy it?
It's on Game. I got it from Game Pass. It was like I'm kind of picking through my last little bit of Game Pass games after I did Psychonauts and Halo, and
Yep.
got to finish up those little last ones. Yeah.
Yep. So this game just kind of, I don't really know much about it because it looked like just one of those like life simulator things where it's like, oh yeah, just sit here and unpack some boxes and there you go. It's a chore, but it's a video game, so it's fun.
I also kind of felt that way. I was very hesitant to pick up this game because I kept hearing people pick up, more like play. People kept talking about it, and they kept saying it's like, oh, there's an emotional story here, and then I was like, what the heck are you guys talking about? It is. I had the exact same impression of like, I really thought like when I was going to start this game, it's like I'll play 5 minutes, drop it, not
Yeah.
touch it again.
Overcooked is kind of my picture, where it's just like
Yeah.
overcooked, but instead of cooking, you're moving boxes.
Yeah. And this is actually for one of the devs I really like. They did Android Assault Cactus, which I really loved.
Fantastic.
So
game.
which I was kind of disappointed. They're like, which is a shoot 'em up, and their next game was like Unpacking. It's like, all right. So Unpacking, very loosely, it is a puzzle game, and how the puzzle works is you have a room that's kind of set up like a grid, and you unpack things. So you open a box, and if it's like a pencil case or something like that, you're like, okay, I put the pencil case on the desk. But it's got this really nice tactile feel of like, since it's grid based, it's like, okay, my ruler or my whatever is 2 spaces wide,
Yeah.
so to speak. So when you first open a box, you can put things anywhere. You just have a lot of space. So I put my pencil case down. I keep open, but as you're going along, the thing that's kind of fun is that because you have like these exact sort of like, this is, some things can stack, some things can't. It's trying to figure out like, as you're starting to lose space of like where to put things, that becomes more the puzzle element. So for example, like let's say I filled the desk with, one of the things that was kind of funny to me is like I had filled the desk. It's like, okay, I got all my desk stuff. Your character's an artist, so there's a lot of art supplies. Like had everything settled, and all of a sudden, like on like my third box, I had a keyboard, and I'm like, I have no fucking room on this desk for this keyboard. And you're like, oh shit, now I got to go back and kind of rearrange. Like, okay, does this actually need to be on the desk, or can this go on the shelf, and that kind of thing. So it is very loosely like a game about unpacking, but it feels much more tactile. It feels a lot more like a putting a puzzle together. But the thing that I think is more fun about than just putting a simple puzzle together is that you're given like a little bit of room for creativity. So, like say generally like, okay, a shirt should probably go in the closet. Well,
Yeah.
it can also go on the shelf. So you can kind of pick and choose
So
like, where you want to put things.
So there's no right answer to any of this. It's just kind of like there could be multiple solutions to putting these things.
There are multiple solutions, but there are wrong answers. Like you can't just put a shirt on the bathroom floor. The game, like once you're done unpacking, you there's actually it'll flash red the things that are incorrect. So and they play with that in kind of interesting ways about why certain things are incorrect. But so for example, like a shirt can only go so many places before it's just not going to be in the right location. So you get to kind of figure out where you want to go, and it has it. So it's basically like a puzzle where your single puzzle piece has multiple solutions, and so where it goes into the puzzle, it's kind of up to you. But you can't but then you also have to kind of like rearrange things to make sure that fits. And just that tactile, just drag and drop feels really, really good. And then like just putting things in their correct spot, it's like one of those like weird brain things where it's like putting a puzzle piece down. This game is just that, putting that like puzzle, like that one missing piece, like just finishing that puzzle. It's that sort of whatever, ticking that part of your brain the entire time. Because there's kind of fun things like when you're putting books on the shelves, like you can actually arrange them by color or arrange them by size.
Or alphabetical, like not a monster.
Well, yeah. well, the thing that's kind of fun about it too is that she has, when you're picking up books, it's not just a book. There's every single item is completely individualized. So you might have 10 books, but they're 10 different books. And of that 10 books, 3 of them could be part of a series. So like you're putting like these nice books like kind of in order. And the thing that's kind of fun too is you'll recognize a lot of these things. A lot of the items you'll recognize what movies. One of the kind of fun things I'll talk a little bit as like the story aspects is she has a copy of Donnie Darko, and you can tell it's a copy of Donnie Darko or like a DVD copy of The Matrix. And the thing that's kind of funny is that she carries that copy of Donnie Darko like through her entire life,
Mm-hmm.
because it means something to her. And I think that's kind of what I'll get into like in a second. But it's neat that every single, and the art is like incredible. So like every single item is completely individualized. And where they start kind of playing with the story, so just that puzzly aspect feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
But this game has probably one of the best told stories through a video game. Um, and the thing that's kind of interesting about it is because it's about unpacking, there's a lot of storytelling just in just the act of unpacking that I never really thought about.
Yeah, because you're kind of digging into essentially a person's life because of what's in their boxes. Because when you move, you take your life with you. So when you unpack it, you're like unpacking. Yeah, you get that feeling of like, oh yeah, this was mine in first grade, and oh yeah, I remember when my cousin bought this for me, or oh, if this was my mom's, blah blah blah, whatever it is.
Exactly. And the thing that's neat about about the story, so what it is, every level is like X many years in the future. So the first one you start, I think she's like around 7. They don't tell you even how old the character is. They're 7 years old. And then by the end of the game, I think they're probably around.
Oh,
Yes.
I was okay. So in my mind, what I was picturing was like, go unpack your bedroom, go unpack your kitchen,
No.
go unpack. So it's like same person, different time periods.
Yes, exactly. So you start out as a
Interesting.
7 year old, and then each like, so it's kind of cool. So like it'll be like 1997. And so you're unpacking like a little girl's room who's clearly just moved in with her family. And it's fun because they have items from 1997. So it's fun. Like she has a Tamagotchi and
Yeah.
like a CD player. And like I play this with my partner, and it was really fun as we were going through the game of like, oh, I remember having that specific boombox or whatever she has.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I remember having a CD rack. I remember having a Tamagotchi. And it goes from, I mean, it's not even a spoiler, but it goes from like year like 1997 to about present day ish.
Okay.
So, and because it's moving year after year, you can see the characters' like hobbies changing of the things they enjoyed as a kid. Some of those things kind of carry forward. Like, well, she didn't take all of her stuffed animals, but she did take this one stuffed animal.
Yeah.
And that one, and like that one kind of carries through a lot of levels. One of the ones I thought was really funny is that there's a huge pot, like a huge like lobster cooking pot, that's really annoying to fit in the kitchen, and you're just waiting for it to pop up every. Because like what's funny is like when you get a box, you can't tell what's in it. You just click on the box and a random item pops out. So
Hmm.
you're just waiting for that fucking pot. And it's so funny because like when you're moving, you have those items that are just like this dumb cumbersome thing that like you shouldn't be moving with you, but it does.
It just follows you from apartment to apartment, and then yep.
Yeah, it exactly. And so there's a lot of interesting story that you can do with that. And they do kind of like little jokes too with just the act of unpacking, because sometimes you have items in boxes that actually should be in different rooms. So like you'll be unpacking stuff. It's like, okay, 90% of the stuff in this box goes into the bedroom. And all of a sudden you'll pick up like a pot. You're like, oh, that's where that pot was, because I was missing it from the kitchen. So I got to go back over, click over the kitchen, put it
Yeah.
in the kitchen. But just this act of understanding and learning about the character based on what they're, at their different periods of life, what they're carrying forward, what they're learning.
Hmm.
What's interesting is some of the things they play with is like where the correct location for certain sentimental items is changes. I don't want to spoil it because I think the pot is probably the best example, but there's some very fun storytelling aspects of like where certain items should be and should not be. I think I think
Right.
also a fun one that it's not, again, it's like, it's weird talking about spoilers because I think the finding this out on your own is kind of the fun aspect. But there's one that I know I saw it on Twitter, so I was like, well, I feel maybe seen this one. Your character gets a degree, and like the year you get the degree, like it goes on your wall,
Oh yeah.
and then later the correct location is sticking it under your bed.
Yeah.
Um,
Mine was hung up in my first apartment after college, and now it's in a box in my storage room.
Exactly, and that's the correct location was in the box in storage. So it's stuff like that, and it's really fun. Like you get to learn about this character, and I like the ending. Just for me, hits so hard for like the point I am in my life, because I was actually thinking about this before I was doing this review. Is I've moved 9 times in my life,
Hmm.
and I finally settled down. And this is a character that moves around a lot, and then they finally settle down. And it was funny. I was like, me and my partner, we were like both in tears at the end of this game, because you really felt like this character. They're starting a new period of their life. Obviously,
Hmm.
spoilers and that sort of thing, but it's just such a cool game that just as a game is that fun puzzle aspect of like, you know, brain clicking of putting pieces together.
Yep.
Plus this very interesting story where you like learn to care about this character and you kind of like reflect on your own life of moving through these periods. I don't know if somebody who's 15 would like this game, but I think like somebody who is our this game is like made
Yeah.
it's like a game that's like made for somebody who's like in their 30s.
Yeah, like in my mind I'm going to like Night in the Woods, where it's like you're kind of going through that like,
Yeah.
okay, I've been here, I've gone back home and gone like, oh, this place sucks, like I hate all of this stuff, like it has that same feel of like, I've been through this, I understand what this how it feels to do these things, even though it's never really clicked in my brain, like how like interesting this concept of doing this is. You have that background of going like, oh yeah, like for sure. I remember moving like the degree to the storage room and being like, I don't really need to hang this up. Like, it's no big deal.
Exactly. If Night in the Woods is being about 25, like about like being in your mid 20s, this is about being in your early 30s. So
interesting.
It also just like it hit me just like at the perfect time. Like the game just everything about it is just it's short, so it's like 3 or 4 hours, and it's just so perfectly made. I have literally no complaints about this game. There is if you've ever moved around in your life, period, this game's amazing. I think it's probably one of my favorite game of the years. Like I've got to figure out what my game of the year is. But this definitely hit me way harder than anything like Ratchet and Clank or anything on PS5 I played this year.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, did you play it on PC?
I did play it on PC.
Okay, because my question was going to be like the drag and drop on a thumbstick never works as well as I want it to.
They're coming out with a Switch version, and like I see on their Twitter they're kind of talking about like, oh, here's how we do it. It's like it's just made for PC, but I had played it with my PC hooked up to my TV, and I just had like a wireless mouse. Yeah. So. I mean, like I don't know if it's
on Xbox Gamepass, so there's already like a stick control for it. I'm just curious because that would be the way that I would try this. And
I don't know, the drag and drop
drag and drop
feels so good. It feels so good, and then it's right click to rotate the item. Stick. Yeah, I don't know how this would feel on a controller.
That's not going to translate well. I have a feeling.
Then it's going to be a slightly less than perfect game on a controller.
Well, anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.